During your initial Warhead walkthrough, the material that we're going to be going over includes your dashboard overview, where we will give you a detailed overview of the dashboard, which is the page that you land on when you first log into your Warhead website. As part of that, we're going to be also going over the breadcrumbs bar and just explaining what those are and how they help you keep track of where you're working at within your Warhead admin. Next, we will be going over the checkout section, and within checkout, we will be showing you how to create shipping groups, create shipping modules, and lastly, tax groups. Once we're done with checkout, we will be moving along to your store manager section. And in the store, we're going to be creating categories. We will also be creating brands. And then lastly, we will show you how to create products. Now, the reason that we're holding products off for last is because a few of these things need to be set up prior to creating a product. For example, in the checkout section, the shipping groups and the tax groups are something that need to be assigned to a product. As well as for store, the categories and brands are something you also assign to a product when you're creating it. So we just wanted to go over some of the things that need to be created first before you can put everything together when you finally create that product at the end there. Lastly, once we cover the process of creating a product, we'll be finishing up by going over your account section. And in that account section, you can find out how to modify your profile if you ever need to change your account information. We'll show you how to create a help ticket. And lastly, how to access the help documents. That gives you an overview of the Warhead walkthrough, so we're going to go ahead and get right into things now. So from the login page here, once you've entered in your username or email, which you can see is required, as well as your password, which you can see is also required, you will go ahead and hit the login button below. Once you do that, you will be logged in and directed to your Warhead dashboard. So what we're going to do before we dive into anything further is just give you a quick overview of the dashboard here. Starting over on the left hand side under our manage section here, you can see we have store, which is where you go in and manage all of your products, your categories. It's where you'll set up a lot of your checkout information and a lot of the stuff that just deals with the product end of things on your website. So that's the section you'll be working in a majority of the time. Moving along, the next section here is content. That's where we have extra pages. That's for things like your about us, your contact us, shipping and returns, and privacy policy. In here is also a section for extra forms, as well as a blog section that you can use for writing blog posts. But those are things you don't need to worry about too much at this point in time, so we'll dive into those more down the road here. Moving along, we have our themes section, which is where the design of your website is built. That is not a section that you really ever need to worry about going into and playing around with the theme of the website. If you ever have any design requests or revisions that need to be made to the theme of the site, we ask that you reach out to us so that we can be aware of the situation and go in and address it for you. Unless you really know what you're doing in the theme editor, it can just be easy to mess things up and ruin the design of your website. So again, just best to avoid this theme section. Moving along here, we have the next section, which is our settings, and that's where you set up some of your store's business as well as account information. On the right hand side here, you see visits, which you can show for the last day, the last week, the last month, or the last year. Right now you can see we currently have no data, and same thing goes for the sales down below. You can show the last day, last week, last month, or the last year. These two sections in blue here on the right hand side are going to be sections that you'll see data on once your site has been set live. What we'll do is connect a Google Analytics account to your website, and that helps monitor the traffic and visits as well as the sales that come in through your site. So anytime you log in, right here on the dashboard, you'll get a good overview of how your site's been performing over the last, again, day, week, month, year, or whatever time frame you're trying to look into. So that's what that section is. And then lastly over here, we just have our account, which is just really information about your website and your information for logging into Warhead and whatnot. So from there, that really gives us the overview of the dashboard. So the next thing that we really want to do is jump into the store manager section and give you a quick overview before we go into a few other sections in there in a little bit more detail. So let's go ahead and do that now. And just so you're aware, you can access any one of these sections that you see here under Manage by clicking on these buttons, or you can hover over your dashboard, drop down, and go to that section as well, which I'll go ahead and do now. So I'm going to Store, so I'll go ahead and hover over Dashboard and go to Store. Now up top here, you see where it says dashboard, store, products. In this gray bar, that is what we refer to as your breadcrumbs bar. So that's going to help keep track of where you're at and the section you're working on within Warhead. So right now, by default, when you enter into store, it brings you to your products grid. So this is where you would manage all of your inventory and the products that you have offered on your website. So that's just a quick overview, but I want to go over the breadcrumbs tabs before we dive into any one of these sections too heavily. So really quickly, we'll hover over the store dropdown, which you can see has products, which will bring us to the product section we're currently in. We also have orders. Below that, we have customers, discounts, and checkout. Checkout we will be going over a little later on in this video here. The orders, customers, and discounts, that's actually going to be part of our next Warhead training session. So that's going to give you a better overview of how to do the order management and manage your customers and everything like that. So we're not going to worry about those three areas too much today, but we will be jumping into the checkout momentarily here. If you hover over the products dropdown, you also have a few additional sections here. Starting with the categories, that's where I'll go to manage my categories, whether I need to create new ones, remove them, or modify the current ones that I have. That's a section we'll be walking through in just a little bit here and showing you how to create a category. The next section down is brands, which very similar to categories is how you can go and manage your brands, and that's typically something that you do for products that have a well-known brand name that's kind of a selling point for a product. Moving along, we have product tags, which is kind of like a mini category aside from your main navigation. That's not anything you need to worry about as you're getting started, but it's just a way to help improve the navigation on your Warhead website for your shoppers. The next section we have is extra product fields. That's just for displaying additional information on your website. So if you ever have additional product details or specifications that you want to add to a product, you can do so using extra product fields. The next section is configurable fields, and below that we have our variant groups. Both of these are ways you can go about setting up product options for products that may require options such as different sizes or different colors. They have their differences, and there's going to be another training session that really covers product options in general, and it will go over showing you how to use both variant groups as well as configurable fields, when to use one or the other, and the differences between them so you know when to use one or the other. Again, these four sections, the product tags, extra product fields, and configurable fields, as well as the variant groups, are all going to be touched on more down the road. So now that we've gone through the dashboard overview and also given you an explanation of the breadcrumbs to help you learn how to navigate the Warhead software better, we're going to go ahead and start going over some of your checkout information and how to set up things like your shipping groups, shipping modules, tax groups, and payment modules. So to do so, what we're going to do is hover over our dashboard drop down here and go to store. From our breadcrumbs up top here, we're going to hover over the store drop down and go to checkout. And as you can see here up in our breadcrumbs bar, that brings us to our shipping groups section.